just put it on the chat. So if you can put it soon, then we can start and do as many questions as possible. All right, so I have a few questions. So one is to create the spiral matrix. I think I will share my spiral matrix code with you guys. So then you all can get an idea of how I did it. I did it a very long and is the method, and we'll just go through it. So I will share that. We'll discuss that. We'll go through that also during the session. No worries. Spiral matrix. Sorting methods. I think best to keep sorting methods to maybe another session. I was anyways planning on doing another session on sorting methods because now I think best to focus on PP2. You all won't get sorting methods as far as I know for PP2. So we can do more PP2 questions in this session, and definitely have a session for you guys on sorting algorithms. Yes. There's a question on backtracking. So let's see. I remember this backtracking. Uh, yeah. So we'll speak about backtracking because I think a few of there are some I have got a few questions from you guys, and we can use backtracking to solve them. Or we'll talk about like the benefits and the disadvantages of backtracking as well. Let's do that. Yeah. So I think there's currently 87. I'm seeing a few more people waiting to join. So let's wait about 5 to 10 minutes and let's start. If you all have any more questions, just let me know. So for now, we'll be doing backtracking. Uh, we'll discuss the spiral matrix, and yes, now sorting algorithms, we'll definitely do another session. Just get your guys to contact me and we'll set a date and do it. I think, when are your final exams, by the way? And someone just dropped me a message telling me your final exam dates. Oh, 11th November. So it's starting with us. So yeah, we have a month. So maybe mid or towards the end of October, we'll do one session on sorting algorithms. I forgot, there was a video that I want to share with everyone. I forgot to share that. But yeah, once you all watch that video, you will get a good idea. So yeah. We wait about 5 minutes more. Any more questions? Like any questions from the previous Kuppi that I did? If you all have any questions on that, just let me know. May yeah. Also, if you guys want, just drop a message in the chat if you all want the code that I made for the maze problem. Few of you guys requested to do that, but I think best not to go into that because that is like a very it most probably won't be asked for your exam. So I think no need to do the maze problem today. Anyways, I don't think it will come for your PP2 as well. So, but I will share my code with you on that as well. Any other questions while we wait for another 5 to 10 minutes? Any code concepts, any data structures that you all would like to know? I think someone said that dictionaries is also a bit that you all have been asked to look into dictionaries. So I'll just explain that as well, how we can do stuff with dictionaries. If there's anything else. Which notes would be right? Someone has asked which notes should be followed to learn the computer lesson on computer hardware. So I think we all have two sets of notes, right? One is the uh, lecture notes and the lecture slides. So I remember if you can just read through the lecture note like once or twice, that should be enough. And I remember just going through the lecture slides a bit more often. So that was, I think, what I did. But if you can get the idea from reading the lecture notes, I think it should be more than enough because I think that's a bit long. But try to go through it and remember. Yeah. So someone has asked, can we use zip functions, numpy? So I'm from what I know, I don't think you can import external libraries. So numpy may be a bit of an issue, but I think you can use zip as long as they don't tell you don't use any other don't use these functions or only use this specific function. Then you'll have to use that specific function. But if they say don't use any other functions, then you can't. But otherwise, if they haven't specified, you can use zip. But I think best to clarify that with uh, someone with one of your lecturers. But from what I remember, you can use zip. Mm-mm. Yes, so we'll do some questions with dictionaries. Uh, Methods of traversal through a binary search tree, again, another interesting advanced topic, but I think again we'll leave this for let's say we'll leave this for the next session where we do sorting algorithms because you won't need this for your PP2, right? So I think best to focus on PP2 because I think it's this Tuesday, right? so day after tomorrow. So we'll just go through like a few questions on that, and I'll definitely do like another session for you guys, but just contact me and fix a date, and we'll do it. Uh, okay. How to handle arrays? That's an interesting question. Like, what do you mean? How to handle arrays? Like, what sort of things do you want to do with an array? Just can you specify a bit more? Yeah, I think the person who asked me how to handle arrays, if you can specify a bit, be a bit more specific, then I can answer your question properly. Uh, okay, so it's actually 1:10, so I think we'll start the session. So let me on my video. So yeah. Hi everyone. So welcome to the second session. So hope you all learned something from the first session that we had. Uh, so if you all have any questions, you all can just drop it in the group or just drop it in the chat here, and I will answer them as soon as possible. So uh, when uh, so I'll be doing a few questions today, but first, I got a message that you all had been asked to look into dictionaries for the PP2. So, uh, can I know if you all have been taught like the syntax of dictionaries in Python? Can anyone just drop me a message? Have you all been taught dictionary syntax? Yeah, okay. So you all have been taught the syntax. But I think applying it is probably where you guys are having a bit of issues. I'll just explain.
Recording in progress.
I'll just explain a bit on how you can use dictionaries and different areas and why we would use a dictionary over a list, right? So let me just share my screen. Yeah, hope my screen is visible. Yeah, so I'll just start from here. For example, now let's think we have now we can do a lot of things with lists, right? With Python lists, any type of list. we can do a lot of things. For example, let's think we have a list of all, let's say the Z scores of all the the top 10 rankers in the A-level exam, right? So let's just have a list called Z. Why is this not right? Scores, and we can have a list. So let's think 2.9. This waiting room is like shit. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So let's just say we have a let's just put this on for now. Yeah, 2.91, 2.90, 2.89. All right, so yeah, let's see some values. 0.88. So let's think we have the top 5 say we have the top 5 of the Z scores. Yeah. Just give me 1 minute. I'm trying to figure out how to type while this. Can we just accept people straight away into the meeting? Chenu, uh, I can't type when people are joining the waiting room. I think better. So I hope you can see my screen. So let's think we have, okay, the top, this is quite a lot. That much. Let's just say, okay, we have the top 15 people Z score. So let's think we want to access a Z score by the island rank. So I mean, you can do that. It's pretty easy, right? You just put the island rank. So let's think we just have to print Z scores, and we know the island rank. Let's think the island rank is 1. We just have to subtract 1 because, as you know, the Z score, the list is 0 index. So rank -1, we can print the Z score. But now let's think, for instance, something is not ordered. So now if you're finding the Z score by island rank, it's easy because it's ordered, right? And this is a sorted list. It's ordered, so you know the index. But let's think you want the Z score by their name. So then this a list is going to be a bit of an issue. So let's think now I have the name. So let's take my name. So you you have so yeah, let's think you have my name and you want to access the Z score by name. So then you're going to have a bit of an issue because you don't know my island rank. So how are you going to find my Z score? Because you can't access elements in a list with anything other than the index, right? There's no other way. So this is where dictionaries really come in. So you can set a key and a value pair. So dictionaries is a collection of key value pairs, which you can find the value by giving in the key to the dictionary. So it's just that simple. You just have a combination, a whole uh, uh, a whole collection of key value pairs. So what's a key value pair? So let's think something like, now let's think my Z-score. So let's say we'll comment this out, and let's say we want to have a new dictionary of Z scores. So you all will what you all will realize is that Z scores. So now we don't use a list. We will use a dictionary. So a dictionary is defined using these curly brackets. You don't use the square brackets that you use for uh, list. So, and you specify the key. So let's say the key would be my name. And so, yes, and you can see, then after that, you have a colon. Just have a colon. And you put the value. So 2.9. So yes, it will be the key separated by a colon and the value. So this is your first basic key value pair. So if you print the Z scores, you'll see it will be something like this, Ovindu and my Z score. So this is not my Z score. It just came up. So it wasn't that high, unfortunately. But so yes, it is just a key value pair and it's separated. So now we can put many entries. So let's see, let's put like a name like Kasun. Should be, yeah. So here we have like a list, a whole list of key value pairs in our dictionary. So now let's think you want my Z score. All you have to do is put in this name of the dictionary and your key. So the key would be my name. So the key is what comes first. So here you can see, let's you put in my name as the key to this dictionary, and you'll get my get the value. So it is similar. You can see the format of accessing from a dictionary is similar to how you would index a list. Only thing is, instead of an index, you can use a key. So you can specify the key to be anything you want. Like it can be an integer, it can be a string, it can be what else can it be? It can be a float, it can be any of those. So you can have a variety of keys and you can access values using that key that you want. So you can see by this example how I used the key to access my Z score. Another thing about dictionaries is the value doesn't have to be an individual entry. It can be like a list or as well. So if I want, I can put the values can be like a list. It can be another dictionary. It can be anything you want. So it's very flexible. So let's think I want to put this as the value. So what I would do is, when I do this, see, even the value can be a list, can even be another dictionary. So yeah, something like this is 0.9, 0.6, and then 2 is 2.8. Yeah. So let's think now what I put for the value is another dictionary. So you can see even then you get this dictionary when you try to access my using my name as the key. So you can see that dictionaries is very is much more flexible. And when you come into when you learn more about problem solving in programming, dictionaries comes in very handy in the future. So if you are taking part in like competitions like IEEE and such problems, you will realize that dictionaries are used way more often than I would say lists, because just due to the fact that it's very flexible like this, right? So I think that's it about lists. Do you guys have any questions? I have 4 questions. Uh, any questions regarding dictionaries? If there are no questions, we can go to the programming problems that you guys had sent. So is there any? Can the dictionary still be accessed using indexes? I don't think this is possible. I actually haven't tried it. Let's see how it works. I don't think you can do this notation, but I think if it's a sorted, there should be a way to get. Okay, no, this is not how it works. Let's see if it's a no. I don't think you can get it by I don't think you can do it like that, because see here, instead of an index, what you would have is the key. And one thing that you should know is a dictionary is not really continuous. So like let's think you put now when you add Ovindu here and when you add Kasun, we can't be sure if Kasun will be after Ovindu or Kasun will be before. So dictionaries aren't ordered as such. So that is why I think you can't really use indexers to access it. So you don't really need indexes when you have these keys. So yeah, I think if you want to access anything using indexes, use a list. If you want to access anything using keys, use uh, use a dictionary. Any other questions? Hmm. Yeah, I think so. Sandushan Aya is here, and he has put a few ways that we can access the what do you call uh, dictionary using a list. So yeah, I mean these would work, right?
Repeat
Yeah,
the list one because I forgot to put it this. Repeat the second one, copy the second one.
the
List
second
one.
one, eh? Yeah. So I just let's just have a look at what Sandushan has sent us. So yeah, this is again we can use this. Uh, my only question is will the list here which we generate have the same like index that we want it to have? Because inside the dictionary, I'm not sure if it is ordered. It is ordered. Sandushanai, what do you think?
Because if you have the ordered list, then because Python has a specific class called ordered list. If you do
Hmm.
it that way, I think it definitely ordered, but in it by default, as I remember, it is ordered. But just have to
Hmm.
check
Yeah, that's
because
a
it'll be default. What it do is that if when you put that number, they just order it. But
hmm.
it's not guaranteed most of the time.
Yeah,
But for the
that's true.
simplest, I think it should be. Just put
Hmm.
0 and see what we can see.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's try it and see. So, okay, it works. So I think it gives the answer as expected. So you can use this if you really want to use the index. I think this method would be possible for you to use. But I think again, as I mentioned, if you want to use index, try using a list. If you want to go this way, uh, if you want to use a key, a specific key for to access values, use a dictionary, right? So are there any other questions? Right. So then I think we can move to the programming problems that I had got. So I think we'll start with, let's see, wait. Start with let's start with the first question, which is the 8 queens problem. So how many of you have tried this 8 queens problem? Anyone? Can you just drop a message? Have any of y'all tried this 8 queens problem? So I think I will share this the problem also, if possible. Has anyone tried this? Just you can just drop a message. Let's see. Yeah. So a few of you have tried, and yeah, it is an interesting question. So can someone can you all put your ideas? How did you all approach this question? So when you get a question like this, the most important thing is how you're going to approach it, like what thinking pattern you're going to go through, or if you're going to start coding immediately, or if you would think a bit, get the idea, and start coding. So just let me know what was one thing, your logic behind your answer, and if you can just drop a message. Yeah. So I'll just share this screen for now. So can everyone see the question? It's very simple. It's just uh, you have a chessboard. So you know a chessboard is 8 times 8, and you have to place 8 queens in the chessboard so that no queens can attack or threaten each other. So I think there was an image of the uh, uh, this thing as well. So let's have a look at that also. Yeah, here it is. So this is the chessboard. This is how it looks. So you have to place 8 queens in a way that it doesn't threaten each other. So if you're going to initially just place 8 queens, that would be a bit tough. So they've made it easy for you. And all you have to do is place 2 queens. So they've given you 8 queens, and you have to place the remaining 2 queens so that they don't attack each other. So okay, so now let's take this like a proper PP2 question, right? You get the question, you read it. What would be the first step? Can someone mention? Okay, so we've got a few answers. So some people have said taking all the chessboard cells and removing all the parts that the queen can move, right? So removing, I think what you mean is removing all the positions that the queen can move. So that is a good idea, right? And finally, there'll be only 2 coordinates left. Yeah, I think that should work. That should work. So if you that idea is correct, you just have to determine how you're going to represent this in the method of an algorithm. By using an algorithm, how are you going to represent this? So that also should be in your mind when you're thinking of a solution. So I think this is a really good, that is actually the right solution. So Yeah, what you've said is represent each of the coordinates in a dictionary by removing the coordinates vertically, diagonally, and horizontally. So my suggestion here for this question is, do you need a dictionary if you're going to do this question? Like if you're going to, why don't you use a nested list of 8 times 8, uh, a nested list with 8 times 8, so that you can mark a 0 if the queen can move there, a 0 if the queen can move, and a 1 if the queen can't move, something like that. Can you specify why you used why you specifically used a dictionary? We have another solution which says making the chessboard with coordinates. If a queen is in a cell, delete the whole row and column first, then delete the diagonal elements, like that. Yes, that is also the similar answer. Since the queen can travel vertically and horizontally, the letter and the numbers shouldn't be repeated. So first I took the numbers and letters that has not been used, and then find out the possibilities from those two. Yes, that is also that is the very simple method of thinking of it. So we have about 3 to 4 solutions, right? So now we just have to figure out how we are going to put that into code. So I also just thought of a small solution, and just before I started this Kuppi session. So I'll just show what I came up with to you guys. So you all have this other issue where you have to use 2 functions, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I think the easiest way I used to get around that was I used to use one function to read the file and output the contents of that, and the other function to write the output file. So you can do whatever you want, but sometimes using a function would be very useful. So sometimes using a function is useful because it simplifies your code, and you don't have to think about too much of like, you don't have to go too deep into the logic. Like in a sense, you can export the logic outside into a function, and whenever you need that logic to run, you can just call that function. So I think that is one way that uh, a function can be very useful to you when you're doing this programming problem. Because I remember when I was doing my second programming problem, it was a bit of a long question. So I didn't use functions in that, and it took me quite a long time, and I think towards the end I couldn't even finish it off. So if I realized, if I had used a function to just export the logic out, I would have it would have been much more simple. My code would have looked much nicer, and I would have been debugging the code would also have been easier for me. So if you all think, okay, I have this code logic which will be running multiple times for a question, then export that, you define that as a function and keep calling that function. That would be much more suitable for you. So let's just go through. I just have like a solution that I came up with. So it's just how I represented the chessboard. So for example, uh, I I thought of this a bit mathematically, because I think, as Sandushanaya says, mathematics is the base for like almost every problem. So if you can think in that way, you can solve almost any problem. So for me, I thought of the chessboard as something like a grid, like a graph, you could say. So I thought of these as the x coordinates and these as the y coordinates. So what I realized, as many of you had mentioned, is that let's think you have a piece in this square, right? If you have a piece in this square, you know this whole row is out, and this whole row is out, right? So that is what I did. So I had a list of rows. I used lists here. So I had a list of rows and a list of columns, which were enumerated from 1 to 8. So that is the rows and columns here. So just to make it simple, I didn't index it to 0 or anything. I didn't start from 0. I just to make it simple, from 1 to 8, I had a list of rows and a list of columns, right? So I did what my first step was doing what everyone said. When I get a square, so for each of the 6 squares that they've given, positions that they've given, I checked their row and their column. And then what I did was I removed this row and column from this main list, right? So if you have a look, after I am done here, so what I do is I first take the input. So my code starts from somewhere around here. So I read the file, which is the input.txt. I split the file. So I think that's another function that will come in useful when you all are passing an input, right? When you all are getting an input, if you all want to divide this input into a list. So if you just take a print statement here, right? You will see that this is just a string, right? See, it's just a string A1, B7. So what we use the split is to make each individual element a list item. So let's go there and just show you. So now you can see that split works like this, and now it's just a nice list of smaller strings. So if you can look at the syntax here, what I've done is I've called split on this data variable, which is a string. So you can call split on a string. And what I've specified is this. So this is the argument that I've given. I've given a string, which is a space. So what this tells the code to do is you take this string, takes the string called data, and every time you come across a space, you have to break that into another a single string. So you have to break this big string called data into smaller strings. But where do you break it? You break it where you come across a space. So I think that is what split does. So split is a very powerful function that you can use for. I'm pretty sure that whatever question you get, you'll have to use split to properly get your input uh, into the type you want, right? So that is why I've used split. And then you can see for each position. So I save these as in data. Now you can see I have a list of positions, right? So I have these positions. So I now want to remove the squares that are available for my queen to move, right? So because of that, I call this function called clean. So my function naming is not that good. I just thought of it as cleaning the board, right? So it's better to call a different function. So what I call this function called clean. So what this clean does is, first it will take in the position, and I will save the x and y. I will save this position as an x and y coordinates. So one thing you have to remember is the first value of this position is a letter. So now we are going to come across the issue, how are we going to convert a letter into a number? So again, Python has inbuilt functions for that. So if you all know, if you all don't know, just look it up. It's called odd and CHR. So odd, what odd does is uh, it takes a character, right? So it takes one single character. So it can be a single string, like maybe A or B or a number or a symbol. It can be any of that. And it returns, but if I'm not mistaken, it returns the ASCII value of it. ASCII or it returns one of these. I think it's ASCII or Unicode, one of the two. So let's see, I think. Yes, it returns the Unicode value, Unicode point value of a one character string. So that is what odd does. So it gives you the Unicode value of a one character string. So what this does is it takes the value. So let's think we have A1, and we compare it with the Unicode of A. So what this actually does is the Unicode values are sequential for A, B, C, D. So it will be one after the other. So when I subtract the value of my string from the value of A, then I get the position in the alphabet, right? So that is what I've done here. And you can see, so now I have an X and a Y value. So let's put a print here, X, Y, and we'll print position as well. So if you check my print here, you'll see. So A1 translates to 1, 1. P7 translates to 2, 7. C4 translates to 3, 4. So you can see now this part of the code or this part of my clean function translates the positions to an XY coordinate. So I've got that thing sorted now. Next, I have to remove the squares that the queen can go to. So for that, what I've done is I've removed the rows and I removed the columns. So that is done. So after this, for now, let's just remove this part of the code. And we'll find it. We'll just print. Let's print the rows and columns, right? Let's just print the rows and columns and see. So you can see there's just 2 rows and 2 columns because we removed 6. So we removed a row and a column for each position. So we are left with 2 rows and 2 columns, right? So now this is actually the easy part of this code, right? Because anyone can understand, okay, when you get a queen, you can't attack in the same row and column. If we can remove it like this, it's very easy because it's very easy to remove these, right? You saw it's just one line of code to remove a row and a column, right? So now you can see nicely, it tells me which positions, which rows and columns I can put my queen in without being attacked. So obviously, it will be that I will have 4 possible positions currently. So with a mixture of these rows and columns, I will have 4 positions available. So now we have to figure out how we are going to choose 2 out of these 4 positions, right? So does anyone have any idea how we can choose from these 4 positions, how we can choose 2? So obviously, I will understand that we have to select from the diagonal, right? We have to select, we have to see where, which squares are attacked diagonally as well. So that is something I didn't check yet. But does anyone have an idea? If you have an idea, just drop a message. Any ideas? Yes. So I think someone has mentioned what I also put. Yes. So what my thinking here was, if I'm going to try to individually go to each and every square, like let's think if I take the queen in A1, if I'm going to try to cancel out every square individually, it will take a long time. It will take a lot of computation, right? So that would be a bit it won't be that optimal, right? So which is why I didn't go to approach it that way. I didn't go to try to cancel out every possible square. What I did was I tried to cancel out all the rows and the columns, and that's what we did. But next, what I tried to do was to cancel out the diagonals as well, right? So that is what I try to do here. So now we'll come to the question, how are we going to uh, how are we going to like uniquely identify diagonals? So that is the question that I also had. So how am I going to uniquely identify a diagonal in this question? And that is when I thought, okay, I'm going to think of this chessboard as something like a grid or a graph. And so a diagonal is a straight line. What if I can, what if I can represent a diagonal using an equation, right? So if you can do that, then you can start, you can remove the diagonals that are already having a queen inside them. And then you'll be left out with then you'll be left with only diagonals that your queen can stay in, right? And then what I checked was, so let's look at this. So this is what I did. So I thought of, there are two types of diagonals. So the diagonals that go this way, like the diagonals that go this way, as well as the diagonals that go this way, right? So I came up with two equations for both of them. So the diagonals that are going this way are of the form y equals x, right? Y equals x plus c. So the gradient would be 1 because it would be increasing 1 by 1. And the c value, which is the intercept, would be the value that uniquely identifies each diagonal. So let's think for this square. For these squares, it will be, so y is 1, x is 1, right? And c would be 0. So here, this line would be y equals x. So this diagonal was identified as c equals 0. So that is how I identified that diagonal. So if you take this, the intercept would be 1, right? Because, for example, if we take this square, y is 2, x is 1. So c would be 1. So because of that, this diagonal was identified as diagonal 1. So similarly, I identified each diagonal by their intercept. Also, this diagonals going this way were identified by the equation y equals minus x plus c. So that way, I again identified these diagonals individually. And then I made two other lists, which were diagonal 1 and diagonal 2, right? So these lists have all the possible values that these diagonals could take. So it's a small calculation. Since you guys all, uh, uh, I'm pretty sure y'all can do this like on a rough worksheet and see that these are the values that the diagonal could take. And what I did was, for every time I'm iterating through the positions, I would remove the diagonals as well, right? So finally, after this, I would have the possible rows, columns, and diagonals that I could move, right? So you can see I have, but you can see I have a lot of diagonals. That is because when you take a chessboard, you have more than 8 diagonals. You actually have 15, right? Because there's one here, and then you will have another 7 like this, and another 7 like this. So you'll have 15 diagonals going this way, but we are only eliminating 6 here, and we are eliminating 6 here. So you'll be left here with 9 diagonals. So now we are coming to the next part of the problem, which is how we are going to finally get our answer. And that is again pretty a straightforward if statement. So I first check if, so then I take, so from these two, what I actually do is I take one of these values and one of these values and do the tests and see. So one of the tests I would check is if these two values, if the current two positions that I take are in the same diagonal. If that's the case, then I definitely, then that's the wrong answer. I have to switch to another answer, right? So if the current diagonals aren't the same value, I have to switch my answer. So let's think if I take x1, y1 and x2, y2 as my positions, right? And they are in the same diagonal. That means my solution is wrong for this problem, right? So because of that, uh, uh, I would have to go to the next solution. So that is one of the tests that I have to go pass. The next test is, so after I check that the two positions I'm currently choosing aren't in the same diagonal, I next check if the positions that I'm choosing were in another diagonal that I had chosen in the previous stage, which was the first 6 positions. So with that I check by using the diagonal 2 and the diagonal 1 the diagonal 2 and diagonal 1 lists that I had before. So if these two values were in diagonal 1 or diagonal 2, then again, uh, if they are in diagonal 2, that means they haven't been removed. But if they are removed, then we would move on to the next solution. So I think this should explain it to some extent. Do you have any questions? So when we delete the whole row and column, then removing diagonals, there would be some squares already removed. So remove an empty item is not occurring an error in Python. So I think, so you're thinking of this in terms of squares, right? You're thinking of this in terms of squares. But what I actually did was I didn't have individual squares here. What I actually had was a list of rows, a list of columns, a list of diagonal, and two lists of diagonals, right? So when I'm removing from this, there are no errors that are happening, right? Because these are all, because we are anyways assuming the first 6 uh, queens don't attack each other. That is the first assumption. So because of that, there will be no error because all of these will be unique. Whatever I'm removing from here will be unique, right? So I don't think there won't be an error of that sort in this question. So is there any other clarifications? So can you explain how you saw the answer in 4, 7? So yeah. So you just want to know how I went from here, right? I think the question is how I went from here to getting the answer. Is that so? Okay. We'll answer that as well. Before I go to that part, someone has asked why take a range 2 to 7 in diagonal 2. So for me, in my question, diagonal 2 is these sort of diagonals, right? The diagonals going this way. So as I mentioned, my intercept is going to be the in my intercept is going to be the value that describes these diagonals, right? So for example, these diagonals will be in the form y minus y equals minus x plus c. So for these diagonals, my intercept would be y plus x, right? If you just draw the lines and just see, you'll see for these sort of diagonals, the intercept will always be in the form y plus x. So when you take it from here, so the smallest value of the intercept would be here. So it's 1 plus 1, which is 2. If you take the largest value of the intercept, it would be here, which is 8 plus 8, which is 16. So which is why I took 2 to 17 as uh, my the range for diagonal 2. And similarly, if you check, you'll see why I took the range from minus 7 to 8, because there it would be y minus x. So again, y minus x, the smallest value would come here, I think. Yeah, the smallest y minus x, the smallest value would be here, which is minus 7. The largest value would be here, which is 7. So I think, is that clear? Okay, so next let's go to how I saw the answer from let's say from this. How did I get the answer from this into the final answer? So as I mentioned, I first just take, so there are two possible combinations, right? So it's now when I get four, these are the uh, x coordinates and these are the y coordinates, right? So I will have two possible combinations. It would be 4, 5, and 7, 6, which is one combination. Or if that is wrong, it will be 4, 6, and 7, 5, right? So those are the only two options that I currently have, and I have to select from between the two. So which is why I first check if they are from here, right? Right. From these two parts of the code, which is, yeah, these two, I'm checking if they are in the same diagonal. So I'm checking this, so I'm checking actually here, what I'm doing is I'm checking this diagonal of the two new positions that I selected. And if they are equal, it means they are in the same diagonal, which is wrong. So if it's wrong, I will go to the next answer. But if it's correct, I will use this as the answer, right? Next, first I checked if they are equal to each other. So they are attacking each other. Next, I check if there is a possibility for them to be the current position that I selected to be attacked by another piece. So currently the values in diagonal 2 and diagonal 1 are the diagonals that are not being attacked, right? So the current, because I removed the diagonal, I removed the values which are attacked by a queen. So because of that, the values in diagonal 1 and diagonal 2 are the values that are not being attacked by a queen. So I check if the current diagonal is existing. So if the current diagonal already exists in diagonal 1 and diagonal 2, then it is not going to be attacked. So if all of these conditions satisfy, that means these two squares that I've selected are safe squares for the queen, right? So in that case, if all of these conditions are satisfied, then I would choose x1, x2, which I tested as the answer. If not, I would go to x1, y2, and x2, y1. So is that clear? All good. I think the guy who asked me that question, if you can answer, think, yeah. Okay. So I hope everyone got it. Just one small thing that I want to show you, which is finally you have to, you also, I mean, it's not enough to just print the statement. You also have to write it to a file. So I think, so this is actually the text. So I'll just save it somewhere else. Answer. And we will. So what I do here is I open a file in write mode called out, and I'm going to write the answer to it. And let's see. So let's just see if this code works. I'm pretty sure you'll know why it doesn't. But yeah, where is my? So, so let's see. So if we run this and we check the output text file, right? So now this works this time, right? But if I do something like, let's say, for instance, I put just the whole string in here, right? Sometimes this does not work, right? This works now. Read and see. So sometimes if you don't, okay, so see, this is a good example. Sometimes if you don't put the close, if you don't close the file, it does not print anything. So because of that, always remember, before you end your code, before you end end your program, always have the output close. So if I run it like this, it should work most probably. Can you see? So always remember to close the file after you've written to the output file, because that would make sure that your changes are saved and the your answer doesn't is not incorrectly removed, right? So yeah, will open do both automatically? That is a good question. That is, if you use open something like this, I think you have to use using read file. So if you use it like this, or with I think this was specified in your notes with read file. I can't remember exactly what the syntax is, but uh, using, I think, with open. Okay, this is the syntax. Yes. So if you do it like this, then it will automatically close after this loop runs, right? If you use this syntax. But if you explicitly like call the open function like the way I did, then it won't do that, right? If you do it like this, then after this loop runs, after it is read, it will automatically close the file. So that is good question. So if you write it like this, it will definitely you don't have to close it. But if you write it like this, then you will have to close it. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Any more questions regarding that? Okay, I'll share the code as well. No worries. So any more questions? What is the difference between W and W plus? I think there's a small difference in the permissions that you get from using W and W plus. Let me check that up as well. Plus Python. Okay. So W plus is actually write and read. It also allows you to write and so again, as it's there in the name, it write is for write on W is for write only, and W plus is for write and read mode. So if you want to both write and read to the file, uh, use W plus, but otherwise just use read. So again, I would say it's better to do these separately, because sometimes if you open like a write file, it may remove the data that is already there. So if you're planning on reading from a file, just read, and then after that, when you're ready to write, open it again and write it. I think that would be a better option, right? So any other questions? Are there any more questions, or shall we move on to the next program problem? Yes. I'll definitely share the code. Just remind me if I forget on the group chat. So I will share this notebook with you, so y'all can just have a look. right? Any more questions regarding this regarding the 8 queens problem? Does anyone have any questions? Okay, since there are no questions, I think we can move on to another interesting question that I came across, which is this permutation, right? I think one of you asked me this in the last session as well. And one of you, I think a few of you had asked me to leading up to this session as well. So how many of you tried this question? Anyone? Yeah. So were you able to figure this out? Tried with a YouTube tutorial. Okay. Anyone else who tried this and was able to figure it out? If you all were, just maybe drop your thinking, like the method that you all used. using using iter tools. I'm not. I don't think you will be allowed to use iter tools in this at your programming problem. So better not to rely on that. But yeah, uh, using recursion. That was also how I also approached this question. Recursion would be the way to go. Uh, so yeah. Uh, Anyone else? Can you all, if anyone got like, let's think you got this by recursion, can you uh, just put your thinking? Can we use nested lists? You can use nested lists, but I think if you are to approach like bigger problems, you will again have to use like massive lists. Your list will become like the space that you need will be very big, because I think that might be an issue. And I don't think nested lists would work for this question. Anyone else? See any more questions? Yeah. Do recursion as base with one letter and tail recurse it back. Okay. I think that what you asked is the solution. Yeah, you do with one base and you recurse it backwards. So we'll go through the code. I also tried this question, and I wrote the code for this after the last session. So let's go through that. But I think there's one more question. Uh, there's one more question which says, can you explain what is recursion? So if I think you probably missed the first session that we did. It is on YouTube. So if anyone wants, just send the YouTube list, send the YouTube link actually. So I think that would, if you watch that, you may be able to get a bit of an idea of recursion. So yeah, go through that. So we'll try this question, because this is actually one of the hardest questions I remember coming across when I was practicing for PP1. So y'all don't have to worry because if y'all can't do this question, because to be honest, at that point I also didn't do this question, right? I also couldn't do this question at that point. So it's a very tough question. So uh, I don't think most of us could have done this question at that point. So don't worry, but I'll just take you through the solution. It's a very interesting solution. So uh, and also, I think one thing to note is that there was a wrong test case, right? There was a wrong test case in one of these. So if you expand this by hand, you will realize that I think the test case which was wrong was case 2. Yeah. I think in case 2, one of the test cases were wrong. So I think if you make it by hand, you'll realize that. So just give it a go and see. I think shouldn't be an issue once I explain the code. So what I did here again was a bit of a mathematical solution, right? I thought of this in terms of what are the patterns? How often do these patterns repeat, right? So did I do recursion? I can't remember if I used recursion. Wide range. Yes. Okay, I did use recursion. But yeah, I used recursion, but also I did this. I thought a bit, like I thought in a bit of in terms of how this position would come. So the first thing that we have to realize is, okay, they're asking us for 3 things. They're asking us for the first iteration, the first permutation, the last permutation, and so the first and the last are very easy. First, for the first permutation, you just sort it, you return it. The last permutation, you sort it, you reverse the sort, and you return it. So now the issue that you're going to come across is how are you going to get this nth permutation? That is the problem that you're going to face here, and which is what we'll try to solve. So for example, let's take 3, right? When you take input 3, so this would be the first one. Then the second one would be 0 to 1, right? And the third one, so now once your 0 has been exhausted here, so then we have to take 1 forward. So then the third one would be 0, 1, 1, 0, 2. So you can see how you get 3 here. So now my question to you is, are we going to sort out all the permutations and figure it out? Or is there a more simple solution, right? So for me, when I thought about it later, right, at that point, it was a bit tough for me, right? But when I thought about it later, I came up with this small solution where I realized we can figure out if, let's think, if you are given a number, if you are given a position, right, we can figure out using that position, we can figure out the characters, like we can figure out a few characters, right? For example, so we know for the first, like let's think if we have a number with two digits, with 3 digits. So there are 2 permutations for the second 2 digits. So let's think for 1 and 2, there are 2 positions we can have it. So in total, let's think, can someone, okay, so we say we get a number with 3 digits, right? We get a 3-digit number. Can someone tell me how many different permutations are there for this 3-digit number? Can someone tell me how many different ways? Okay, 6. So 6, how did you find 6? You would have come with 6 as the factorial, right? Factorial of 3. So you know there are 6 ways that these can be ordered. So next we can figure out let's look at the first value, right? So out of these 6 terms, out of these 6 positions, 6 permutations, for each of these individual values will be at the first place, will be at the first position 2 times, right? So the first two permutations, 0 will be in the first place. The second 2 permutations, 1 will be in the first place, and the third 2 will be in the first place. So now, do you all understand that using the number, using the position that we got, we can figure out the first digit. Do you all understand how I got that? So if it's 3, we know 3 is in the second 2. So because of that, 1 should definitely be the first digit, right? You'll understand. If anyone didn't understand, just drop me a message and I'll explain it again. If not, just maybe raise your hands if you understood. So using the number 3, I know that 3 is coming in the second 2 positions, right? The second pair of positions. So in the second pair, 1 is the first digit. You'll understand. Okay. So what I was saying was, so there are 6 different permutations, right? Let's take 1 0 1 2 0 2 1, then 1 0 2 1 2 0, then 2 0 1 2 1 0. So there are 6 of those. And we know when we are going in this order, you have to first look at this how these permutations are made. So when you're going in this order, the first 2 permutations in order, like if you look at this here, the first 2 permutations have 0 as the first digit. The second 2 permutations have 1 as the first digit. The third 2 permutations have 2 as the first digit. So you can see, like when we are given number 3, we know that number 3 is this position. It is the second 2 permutations, right? It's the second 2 permutations, and it will have 1 as the first digit, right? So can you understand how I figured out that uh, 1 will be the first digit here? Yes, I think you understand that, right? Is that clear? I think the person who asked me the question, who asked me to explain it again, do you understand? All good. Yeah, okay. So now I figured out the first position, right? So next I have to figure out the second position. So now we'll look at, so now I know this 1 is already sorted. So now I have to figure out these 2, right? And that I will look at these 2 as a single question. I won't look at it as uh, a part of this. So I will go recursively. I will take these 2 numbers separately. So I will take 0 2 and 2 0. So if you're taking them in order, right? Uh, 0 2 should come first, 2 0 comes second. But how am I going to tell which one it is? So that what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this. I'm going to divide 3. So I know 3 is in the second 2 values, right? So 3 is in the second 2 values. But 3 is the first of these second 2 values. But how am I going to get that? That is, I get this by dividing 3 by the factorial of 3 minus 1. And I think that is the logic that you have to use. And I keep recursing and I figure out each digit. So I first figure out the first digit. Then I call the function again and figure out the second digit. And finally find the third digit. So that's how I did this question. And I think it will be more clear with this code. And wait, I think you need the factorial code as well for this though. So just use factorial and this, and I think you should be fine. So this will print all of the values and you can just get whatever value that you need, right? So for example, if you need print get nums, let's say 40, you will get this value. So I think this that was the issue with the test case. There was a small issue, I think, with this test case. Just have a look and see if the test case is right or if I made a mistake here. But I think that test case was a bit wrong, right? So just have a look. You all can try this manually and see, right? And just look at the code. I will send you all guys this notebook again. I will send you all when I'm done. So have a look, and I think you all will be able to understand how I did it. So here what I did was I have this, so every time I get this, I have this empty array called answers. And towards the end, what I do is I get these values. One is to figure out the position. So X gives you the first position, the current position. And next, what I do is I make it smaller and I call this function again recursively. And I give in R and I reduce the numbers and give it. So just have a look. I think you will be able to understand. If you don't, you can just drop me a message. N equals 5, not 40. N equals, no, I think here what n is not the number of digits. N is the position, right? N is the position of that permutation. So it's not 5, it's actually 40. What if there are repeating digits? That is a good question. And I'm also not, I didn't really think of what would happen if there are repeating digits. I think it should work okay. Yeah, I don't think it will be an issue when you're sorting it. But just again, you can test this code and run it and see to see if there are any issues with the code once I share it. Any other questions or any other question that you would like me to try? Can I debug it? Like, what do you mean by debug it? Mm, like, what do you want me to do exactly? So I think if you want to know like what's happening in the code, it's just so using this, what I said before, I find the current digit by dividing n by the factorial of n minus 1, like not n minus 1, actually the length minus 1, right? And what I give to the new function is n, the remainder of the n divided by length minus 1. So again, this is a bit difficult, I would say, to explain, but if you think a bit mathematically and intuitively, I think you can figure out what is happening here, because it's a pattern. Whatever said and done, this is a pattern that keeps repeating. So if you can identify how this pattern works and how everything keeps repeating, I think you can write this code. And I think this code is very simple, like uh, comparatively to what you would find to write this thing. It's very simple, and you don't have to find all the permutations in this. You can just find the permutation that you need. So I think that is the benefit in this. So just let me know if you have any questions. If not, I think we'll just talk about like PP2 in general. So how are you guys prepared for PP2? What do you all think? I think it's on next Tuesday, right? So are you all ready? Are you all still practicing? How is it? The repetition issue can be solved by defining a function for case of factorial number of permutations for any set of objects. Yeah, I think that would be the way to go. I'm also just thinking how I would do that with repetition. But I'll think about it and see if y'all figure out the code for that repetition, then just send a message. Just drop the code on the group. Will matrices again, I don't know what sort of questions y'all will get, but matrices might be there. Yeah, matrices most probably will be there in PP two. Not you can't be sure because some people will get some questions, some people will get different ones, but some of you may get matrices. Will Tower of Hanoi come in PP2? Probably not exactly the Tower of Hanoi, but y'all may get something not that difficult. One thing I don't think it will be that difficult, but you can get something where you have to use recursion. Tower of Hanoi is a bit tough, but I think best thing is to uh, just practice as much as you can, and you should be fine. Yeah. That if there are several questions for PP2, like mentioned, how will look how because after. So I think if I remember correctly, even for us, PP2 was two questions. PP2 was two questions, and it was two questions, one small one and a big one. So the small one, I think you can do in around 5 to 10 minutes, and it will take about 20 minutes for the big question. So I think that was how PP1 and PP2 were structured. One thing I think that will help you all save time would be if you can properly remember this input and output functions, right? Because one thing is, most probably, PP2, you will have to use at least two functions. They will give you a requirement like that. So if you can maybe memorize these functions and just quickly write that as soon as you go, then you will save some time because that you won't be wasting time thinking about the input and output, taking the input and output. So as much as you can, just try to memorize those two functions and just go and write it and look at just try to understand what the input is being given, but try to like open in the file, so writing to the output file, try to do that like as soon as you get there, because then you will have that thing out of the way and you'll probably get some marks for that as well. So I think that would be one tip that I could give. Uh, so yeah, that's what I was that's one thing I wanted to tell you all. And another thing is keep putting print statements. So I think if you're, when I was explaining also, you all saw how I was putting print statements everywhere and just checking what happens from the code that I do. So I think that really helps, because if you go to write the code at one stretch and then go to try debugging, it might be a bit of an issue. So because of that, keep putting statements here after like every bit of code that you do, because that will be useful, right? And uh, next, one person has asked, can we use a sort function directly in our PP2, or do we have to use bubble sort or other method? No, I don't think you will get to implement bubble sort. That is a bit tough, I would say, to do in 30 minutes at your level. So because you all are just starting, and I don't think they will expect you to implement bubble sort. But you most probably should be able to use sort, because it is a built-in Python, what do you call, uh, Python method. Also, I think one thing I that helped me was just go through these Python methods. If you go on let's see, I think sets, yeah. If you go on W3 schools, you can find like all the methods for the different data structures that we have that we use. So for example, if you all want list methods, you can just go to this link and figure it out. So if you all can just have an idea of what are the methods that are available and how I can use them, it would give you like better better chance of solving the questions, because some of these methods, when you're reading through the methods, you'll understand, oh my god, I wrote the code for this method when it already existed. So if you can just go through a few of them, just read through and just have an idea, that would be useful. Will there be marks for kind of hard coding approach? Can you just specify your question? Like, will there be marks for hard coding? You probably won't get marks for hard coding, and they will structure their test cases in a way that you can't hard code. So I would suggest you not to like hard code in the sense just output the answer, like print a random answer which would pass the test case. So I don't think you should do that. But some things, if you can, like, instead of doing it, if it's like a simple logic, and if you can uh hard code it, that's fine. But just don't go to hard code the answer itself. Don't just put a print, or don't directly output the value to the file. I don't think that will work. Hmm. CSE department in specifically to go to dictionaries. Yes, that's why I explained dictionaries at the beginning of the session, so that you all can get an idea of what to do. So just go through them. I didn't actually find any questions. None of y'all sent me any questions that I can use dictionaries too. Because if y'all send me more questions, I could have figured out if there were any questions that we can use dictionaries for. But unfortunately, I didn't see any which we can use dictionaries. But just go through like a few examples on maybe W3 schools, or what is the other one? Yeah. So uh, yeah, I think dictionaries are interesting, but it's not that difficult, right? Dictionaries aren't that difficult. It's just like accessing values from a list, but you just use the key that you specify. That's the only difference. Just try it out a few times, and I think it shouldn't be an issue. Yeah. Hard coding, you won't get marks. Yeah. I mean, if you hard code the answer, you're definitely not going to get marks, because that is wrong. Uh, so don't hard code the answer. You won't get marks for that. But yeah, that's the other thing. Will they reduce marks if we import inbuilt libraries in PP2? I don't think they will reduce marks, but I don't think you'll be able to import the libraries. That's the issue. I think they will block those. So you'll be only able to import a few, maybe not even import any libraries. You just have to use the Python functionality. So uh, That is thing with these inbuilt libraries. Don't try to rely on like stuff like iter tools. I don't think they most definitely won't allow you to import iter tools. Even math, I don't know if not math, sorry, NumPy, I don't know if you'll be able to import those. Someone has sent a okay, someone has sent a code. Let me check this. Let's try this and see. So this is the code. K equals it. Yes. That's an interesting question. But yeah, you want to print K, right? Mm, So so I think for you, maybe the output is BA, right? And that is not a problem because it's the way sets work internally, right? So don't worry too much about that. Sets are not ordered. So the order you input things to a set or the order you remove them, it won't matter, right? Because that's the way sets are built. Sets aren't ordered. So when you input things to them, the order will change. So uh, it doesn't really, it will always won't be like in the order you put them. So you don't have to really think too much about that. So I think in your machine and my machine, the way it works is different. So I think that's nothing big. So it's just the way that sets work. Sets are not for you to check any. It's not. You don't have to. Sets don't. What do you call? Don't have any order, but sets are useful to check if something is there, right? Because the access time, the checking time is much faster in a set than in a list. Because in the list, you will iterate through the whole list. In set, you can just check if that value is there or not. Again, these are a bit stuff that you will learn when you come into CS. So, but I think that should answer your question. Any other questions? Hmm. So if there's no more questions, I think we can wrap up for today. But if you all do have any questions, just ask. I think just a few things to remember. Just remember to take in, remember to memorize, like not memorize, just keep in your head the input and output functions. You can use those as the two functions that you are supposed to use, like if you have to. So then that way you don't have to keep thinking about the functions. Then another thing is go through the list of inbuilt functions and see if there's anything you may be able to use before you go for the exam, programming problem. And the other thing is keep putting print statements and check if the code you write is working properly. Even in the middle, keep putting print statements. So I think those should help. Other than that, all I can say, what I can say is good luck. I'm pretty sure you guys will do a good job. And don't worry too much about it. It won't be, it may be a bit difficult, but it will be difficult for everyone. So just go and do your best. So yeah, I think we can end for today. Okay, someone wants to talk about spiral matrix. Let's just go to that. Yes, this is what my code was for spiral matrix. See, mm, I don't call the code. Mm, yeah, just let me check what the issue is here. Yeah, I also can't remember how I wrote this code. Uh, but I think I'll have to just go through and see how I wrote this. Mm, yeah, this definitely should run. Just can't figure out why. Hmm. So spiral matrix was a bit of a tough question, to be honest. That was a very uh, uh, it took, if I got that question at this thing, it would have been very tough to do. But yeah, and see, I think matrix. Yeah, I'll definitely share the notebook. Just remind me just in case I forget. Matrix has put 5 and matrix 5 should work. Yeah. Mm, yeah. So it works like this. I think you can see uh, the spiral matrix. Does it work? Yeah. Like this goes like this, and yeah. So I made this in a way that it works for any of the 6, and like it works for even and odd, but it's a bit difficult figuring out like how it works individually. So yeah, if you look at it's again how my thinking pattern was. The spiral matrix is comprised of smaller spiral matrices. So for example, if you take this the 7 by 7 spiral matrix, it will be composed it will have the smaller spiral matrix, which is the 5 by 5. So once you have the 5 by 5 squares, the 5 by 5 spiral matrix is made of the 3 by 3 spiral matrix, and the 3 by 3 is made of inside the 3 by 3 you have the 1 by 1 spiral matrix, which is just one. So that is my initial logic. So what I did was, I think I initially wrote the numbers outside, I think. Let me see. Oh no, actually what I'm doing is I'm writing the first time calling this. What I did was, Yeah. What I did was I first drew the matrix inside. I called I called the matrix, and then I drew the matrix inside. So for example, if I got a 7 by 7 matrix, I first called the 5 by 5 matrix. And then inside 5 by 5, I called 3 by 3, and I finally that ending case is 1, right? So if it's 1, then after that I return control back to the 3 by 3 matrix function, which then starts writing the numbers like this, right? Then I get control back to the 5 by 5, which writes the numbers like this. And next, so that was the logic behind it. So I think if you just have a look at the code, you'll understand. So it's just like I write the internal matrix, write the numbers outside. After that, write the numbers outside. Keep writing it like that. Can you explain I think hopefully that explains the idea for the spiral matrix. If there's any more questions, drop a message. Can you explain the Levenstein distance problem? I'm not really sure what that problem is. If you can send me that as a message. Yeah, just give me a minute. I will share the code. Uh, I think I'll just edit it so that everyone can understand it. And yeah, know that. Any other questions? Uh, I think this 11, okay, distance problem. Someone has shared it. Have I done this question before? Hmm. Okay, I think I've let's have a look at this as well then. Uh, so I send this in the chat. So just have a look. Yeah, so this is the problem. Between two words is the minimum number of edits to change one word into another. It is computed by assigning a penalty of 1 for each edit below. A deletion is 1 point. Insertion is 1 point. Substitution or replacement is also 1 point, right? So the distance between height and short can be computed as follows. Uh, so hence the Levenstein distance is 3, right? How can we do this? Yeah, this is also a bit of a tricky question. How do we do that? Okay. Hence, okay. See, I think the uh, uh, one of the important points to remember is the assumptions. So here the assumption, they've given a few assumptions. I think those will be the key to figuring out this question. So you just read, assume the absence substitution does not happen in adjacent characters in a word. So, and similar letters do not appear adjacent to each other. So those are like important assumptions. So that means, for example, substitution, insertion, and I think deletion does not happen in adjacent characters in a word. So let's say, let's take this hate shot example. You first remove E, then you switch. Yeah, so I think you can see that uh, consecutive letters do not are not changed, right? So I think the best way to go about this would be, yeah, this is a bit tough to be honest. Uh, how did I do this? So you could go like this, like in the sense you can first have like like 2 pointers, in the sense you can start from the beginning and keep going, right? And you can see, like, let's think you have the target word, right? Which is, let's say, short. And you check at which positions the word letters from the target word are there. So let's think you take S. And then you see if there is any S's. But if there are no S's, then you have to add an S, right? You have to check, so you take S in short and you check if there are any letters, right? If there are no letters, you have to decide if you are going to, you have to decide if you're going to add a letter or if you're going to change a current letter. So for that, you check the next letter as well. So you check H as well. But then you can see H is there in the current word. So because of that, you can figure out, okay, you don't change that H, but you have to add an S. So now you know the first 2 letters are done. Then you go to O. So now your initial word is SHATE, right? So you know H won't change, right? So then you go to O. So you check O. So SHATE. Now you will be iterating A. So you have to decide, are you going to remove A or are you going to change A to O? So for that, you need the next letter. So then you check T, the T in the target letter. And then you see if there's a T coming afterwards. And then you can just see that you can see that what do you call, there is a T. So because of that, you don't delete the A, you switch the A to an O. So I think if you go looking 2 by 2 letters, you should be able to answer this question. Because this is simply because they've given that you don't do insertions and deletions on 2 letters that are opposite to each other. Just because of that, I think we have to go 2 by 2 and see whether we delete or insert. Understood? Does that answer your question? Yeah. So if you have any issues like implementing it, just if you have any issues implementing this, just you can drop me a message and I'll see if I can help. But try it on your own with this idea. So again, read the question like properly. I think that was luckily we went through this question. You can see if you read the first thing, you will be very confused. You think, okay, this is very difficult. But once you read the bottom part, like which has the two assumptions, when you read it, then you realize, okay, this with this assumption, the question becomes much easier. So because of that, read the question, read the assumptions as well, right? And yeah, I think that is it. Any other questions? Seems like there are no questions. So then if there are no questions, I think you guys can leave. I'll stay behind for a bit if there is anyone who would like to ask any questions. So once again, guys, good luck for your PP2. And we'll have another session maybe to discuss sorting algorithms if you all want. So yeah. Okay, guys. Thank you for joining and asking questions. So I will see you all again soon. Yeah, I will I will share the notebook now itself. Don't worry. Let's see the notebook. Yeah. I've shared the notebook. So if anyone wants to see, channel, I think tell me කට්ටිය ඉවරයි වගේනේ. එන් කරමුනේ මේ ප්‍රශ්න මොනවයි තියෙනවනේ අපි තව විනාඩි දෙකක් වගේ ඉඳලා එන් කරමු. නැහැ වගේ. Okay, මල්ලි. Bye.